It is July 3rd, 2013 at 1:05 p.m. and I'm going to conduct the interview with Edward Koucherik. All right. Thank you very much for meeting here. I do appreciate it. So just to start off, if you don't mind telling me about your background, where you came from.
Okay, I grew up, I'm third generation Coloradoan.
Okay.
I grew up in Leadville, Colorado. That's where my family came from, and Leadville has a lot of connections to the Craig area that go way back. So the reason I moved to Craig was jobs, basically. I grew up in a mining environment up there. I spent some time traveling and doing other things, but mining has been my basic background. Mining equipment maintenance.
Okay. Basically. And did your experience then start in Leadville?
Yeah, I would say yes. Okay. I went to college to get a degree, an associate's degree in diesel mechanics. But,
okay.
Most of my experience has been in mining.
And did you move here after the boom in the late 70s when the Trapper Mine came in?
No, actually I came here. They were in the process of building Trapper Mine, assembling Trapper Mine, and assembling the power plant, the first units. So I worked at Trapper Mine for a period of time, helped them assemble the drag lines, and started out with their construction. The power plant at the time was being put together, had one unit. I moved here in 1978, so.
Okay, so in 1978.
Right.
Okay. And what did the community look like when you came?
It was very busy, very hard to find housing. It was a lot of people were. The construction had brought in a lot of people. Shadow Mountain, which is still here, was built as a construction camp, basically for housing people who were moving here. I didn't live there. I managed to find a rental property, which I rented, and later I purchased a house early in my time in town. It was a much different place, much smaller, but very active when I moved here.
Okay. Okay. So there were a lot of new people coming in with the mine being created then?
There was a very big boom situation. We had a lot of boom type problems, bar fights, a lot of stuff that there was a lot of rowdiness, shall we say, due to the type of people that were involved in being here and assembling all this stuff.
Right.
We went into a period of time, early 80s, when things really took a big turn for the worst. When they built the power plant initially, the power plant was to be 3 units supplying power to the oil shale industry. The oil shale industry fell apart, and the power plant went into bankruptcy, and there was big layoffs. I got laid off from Trapper Mine, went to work for Peabody Coal over at Seneca Mine, which supplied coal to the Hayden power plant. And so coal has always been a very big thing here, but it hasn't always been super steady. There were some up and down times.
Okay, so a lot of people were getting laid off then?
There was quite a bit of transitioning. That was about the time when the oil shale went down, that they called it Black Friday down in Rifle. And it was a very big downturn. The house that I bought lost a lot of value. I ended up selling it. I did get married and moved to a different house. I had that house as a rental for a while, but the housing market really was depressed for a period of time.
Wow.
So it kind of started creeping back up when the bankruptcy was settled. They found a place to sell the power that the power plant was going to produce. It mostly went to California, so it stabilized things quite a bit.
Oh, okay. Okay, and what did all of this transitioning mean for your type of work?
Well, my type of work in heavy maintenance is pretty much in demand. I didn't have an issue with never being able to find work. I had to change jobs and kind of bounce from mine to mine to keep going. But
right.
I found a very steady situation at Peabody over in Hayden. I worked there for quite a few years.
Okay. So from that time when you were transitioning, once you found a more stable position, how did the mines continue to transform the community and the mines themselves?
Well, the mines, at the time when I came here, there were approximately, I would say, maybe 10 large operational mines. They were shipping coal out of the valley to various points. One of the mines I worked at, we shipped a lot of coal to Texas. The Koucherik mine at the time was producing a lot of coal going out of the valley on rail. That all kind of dwindled down. They received the contract for Unit 3 at the power plant, which made Trapper's workforce, it had to be reduced because originally it was set up to supply all 3 units, so there was a bidding situation that went on, and so it's been a lot of mines that were in existence at the time are gone. They just because of lack of sales, they've gone out of business.
Okay. So many mines were in this bidding war, you said.
Well, it was more of a situation where they were looking for outside sales, which tended to last not all that long. There were problems with transportation costs and whatnot that caused the product to be, they just couldn't sell it, so they shut down.
And was that consistent through the 80s and 90s and into the 2000s?
Well, it varied. There were so you have a mine out in westernmost section of Colorado, which supplies coal to its own little power plant called Desirado. That's one of the large mines. Then you had Koucherik, which produced a lot of coal for a lot of outside sales, but now produces only coal for Unit 3. Trapper mine was in place, and then there was a mine, the big mine over at, called Energy Fuels, which has still maintained a lot of production. It's probably the highest producing mine in the area currently. Has gone through a lot of ownership changes. Some of the other mines that were here went through labor problems. They shut one mine down. Lack of sales of coal has shut other mines down. So I've seen it go from a very active mining area in the 70s, about early 80s, things started really contracting.
Okay. And with all of this change and all these workers being shifted around, what was the role of the unions, if any, in all of this? Well,
the unions at one point in time were quite strong. UMWA, United Mine Workers, I was on the E-board, what we call the executive board of the United Mine Workers at the mine at Peabody, and one of the other UMWA mines, they actually, during a long strike, ended up the mine shut down. The mine at Trapper has a union representing them. That's the operating engineers is their union. Other than that, the unions have kind of they've gone away.
They've gone away.
Yeah, basically. There was another large mine operational for a while over by Oak Creek called Pittsburgh Midway. When I was growing up in Leadville, we received coal by rail out of that Pittsburgh Midway mine back in the 60s, 50s, and 60s. They sent a lot of coal out. So coal has played a large part in the valley. It's just less and less as we see now.
Right. Okay. So I was doing an interview the other day, and someone mentioned that there was discovered a large area where there was a lot of coal, but deeper underground. You need to dig, and that the energy would be able to be sustained in the area for a period of, I believe they said, 300 years. Has that come out in your line of work? Have you seen anything with that?
I currently, my latest phase, having retired from active mining, I now teach at the college. I teach MSHA, which is mine safety training, to all the people who are transitioning into the mines, and we have a yearly renewal of certification that everybody has to do. as part of that, I've gone through and did a great deal of research on the history of mining in the area. And yes, there is tremendous amounts of coal here. They just are not, there's no one looking to buy it at the time. So
I see.
there's, the volume of coal available here is inconceivably large. It's just there's no way to sell it. Coal has somehow or another gotten a very bad reputation.
Right.
Of late. So.
Okay, and with with that fluctuation on the dependability of coal and the opinions about coal and the way that all the mines have come up and gone down, like you were saying, these trends, how has that been affecting, or how have you seen that affect the community of Craig, just the general community?
Well, it's been the coal mining jobs were always the cream of the crop jobs, the ones that people sought very highly, because the pay grades at the mines were much higher than the only comparable pay is with the power plants. So between the power plants and the coal mines, those are the highest sought after jobs, the jobs that require a certain amount of expertise to a certain extent. There's been a lot of people who've come directly out of like high school, known the proper people and gotten onto the mines. And if you get into the mine jobs, it's been a very lucrative thing. So what's happened as the mines have kind of gone down, I think there's less people who are doing as well as there was when things were going well.
Okay. How has the population then fluctuated over the years?
There was, of course, a very large influx of people during the construction phases, and then your mine and power plant populations are fairly stable. The natural gas and oil industry tends to be very I have some expertise in that also, because I when I retired from Peabody, I went to work in the natural gas patch as a compressor mechanic. So I have spent some time in that field also and seen how that's affected. The amount of people required to produce that stuff is very, very small compared to the mines. So I would say the population has decreased. I think numbers-wise, I can't guarantee that, but I'd say it's gotten less.
Okay, and continuing into today.
Yeah. There's, if anything, because of the political climate and the bad reputation the coal has currently, I would say, we're kind of in trouble population-wise. There's a ranching community mentality that was here very strongly when I first came here, which there was some resentment toward the people who were coming in to do the mining because of the much higher pay rates. And the people who were here in the beginning, it was difficult to kind of break in and become part of the community for the people who were outsiders. I don't think that's quite as bad as it used to be, but it was hard at the time.
Right. Okay. And well, then with that, you mentioned before that when you first came and it was in that, right before that boom and then right into the boom, it was very rowdy. And you mentioned things like the bar fights. Has that dropped off?
Yeah, definitely. That's much less than it used to be.
Okay.
There was a time frame when Craig and Rock Springs, Wyoming, were known as like really, really tough places to be in because of the high influx. They were building a power plant at Rock Springs and building power plants here. So you had the kind of people who, the construction workers had a bad reputation. Somewhat deserved occasionally.
Okay. Outside of work then, what was there to do in Craig for recreation, just on your spare time? What would you do?
Oh, definitely. Hunting is very, very big in the area. Skiing it's easy to access. If you're an outdoor person, it's much easier to survive here. The problem that a lot of people, what we saw as Peabody attempted to bring people in from their operations back east, for example, the isolation, it's a long ways away from say, higher populated areas, so people would come in who are used to being able to go to bigger cities and go shopping really easily. They couldn't survive here. They didn't do well. Their wives were not happy here. So we had a hard time accessing people who would come in and live here comfortably with their families and whatnot. So
right.
It's an isolated area, but if it fits your lifestyle, it's very easy to live here.
Okay. All right, then, and that I'm assuming, or has that trend kind of continued today?
Yeah, I would say that's pretty much.
Especially the decreasing population.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have a little bit different situation now in that you're getting a lot more influx of people who are convinced they're going to save what's here. They're more protective of stuff that they don't really understand, in my opinion. People come in and try to save, for example, the wild horses.
Oh, I see.
Stuff like that. You get the environmental people coming in who aren't really educated in what they're actually trying to save, I guess you could say.
So are there things other than saving the wild horses going on?
Yeah, for example, when they first came here, we had a large influx of environmental groups who were very, very, very concerned about the pollution from the power plants, for example. And they pressured and continued to pressure the power plants to reduce pollution. There was a reason that they had a legitimate situation back in the late 70s, shall we say, where it needed to be done. We had a brown cloud issue. We had a lot of pollution in the valley because of the large number of power plants we're producing, and they've done tremendous cleanup efforts to get that pollution down. They're getting down to where they almost can't make it any better. They've done as much as they possibly can. But in the past, I will have to admit that when I first came here, there was a definite brown cloud issue.
Really?
It's now much, much less than it was. Well, it's almost...
Right. And in working, like you just said, you've transitioned into that teaching position at the college for safety. Are the two issues of pollution and safety intertwined, or is the safety that you were talking about different?
Well, it's all connected. The safety that I'm involved with involves basically, in my mind's eye, bringing people who are transitioning from the civilian side into the mining side. My goal was to send them in with knowledge of what they're getting into, and so that they can perform the work with a little bit of forewarning of what they might be stepping into type thing.
In terms of just different dangers?
Yeah, dangers.
I spoke with someone last week, and they mentioned basically self-accountability of people, that oftentimes on the work site, what they've seen in safety is that it's not a mechanical failure, it's more human error. Has that been your experience?
The mines and the federal oversight are very, very goal-oriented toward reducing problems, okay? Mm-hmm. What happens is people, they do, shall we say, stupid things and get themselves into trouble. It's like wearing earplugs, for example. You can make the decision, okay, they're going to hand you a box of earplugs, but if you don't use them, your hearing's going to suffer. So you have to stay within the lines, follow the rules, and the job is, it's there to be safe. Right. If you try to play against go with the other side, there is the possibility of getting hurt.
Okay. So how has safety then developed overall since you came?
In the old days, I would say that there was this may be a bit harsh, but the mine operators were less likely to, they would try to cut corners in the old days. The oversight has become such that now there is no attempt to everything is done above board. You don't have the problem of trying to get someone to actually help you to make it safe. It's being made safe for these people who are currently coming in. It wasn't always the case. We did a lot of things that were maybe less safe than they are now. But I don't think the injury rates really have gone all that much. You know, as I see it now, it's mining to me has always been a good, safe occupation. My family has been in mining for a very, very long time. They started in the 30s with the AMAX mine up in Leadville. So it's been something I've been around all my life.
Okay. Wow. So with all of this transforming and going on, how do you expect things, kind of to go moving forward with the mine? Do you see this community being sustained? You mentioned earlier, the reason why I asked is you mentioned the population declining, and you said maybe a little bit in trouble. Is that a direct correlation to the mine?
What's currently going on in the political world is there seems to be, for lack of a better term, everybody's saying it's a war on coal. And I'm completely amazed at how, in the years that I've been in the business, it has gone from being a very accepted electrical producing medium to all of a sudden now we're the evil people. And it's not something that's totally new. They did this back in the early 80s. They attempted to prove that coal was a very bad issue in Denver, and they converted several of the power plants to natural gas in Denver, and they came back and they said, well, the pollution is not completely gone. It's changed slightly. And the governor at the time came to Craig, and he said, we all gathered in the high school auditorium, and he said, boys, says, you dodged a bullet this time. He said, but they will be back. And we've reached that point where they are back. The natural gas industry in the past could never guarantee a price for a long-term contract because the gas supply was not totally predictable. It tended to come and go, whereas coal, you have X number of million tons in the ground, you know it's there, it's not going to go away, you can guarantee a price for a long period of time. Now the gas boys have got figured out how they can, they've made their supply a little more stable, so now they're coming in and saying, okay, we can guarantee a price for X number of years, and that's the biggest thing that's going against coal right at the moment. The problem is that irregardless of what you burn in a furnace to make electricity, you're going to have a certain amount of emission. The coal we've reached a point with these plants in this valley where the emission is extremely, really low. I don't, in my opinion, see natural gas these plants being converted to gas, but it is possible because there is a tremendous amount of gas in the area also. So my experience is that you never say never.
Right.
But as far as where we're going, the coal that's being produced out of the Up Valley, a lot of it's going overseas. It's being shipped out to China or to India and over in that neck of the woods by rail. And so there's a concern that if the economy in China tends to go down, then we could lose jobs here. So it's not mining, in my experience, has been a very cyclical situation. And
now it's not even just a regional or a national issue. You're talking an international, connected concern here.
Right.
For the community.
Yeah, we don't have that. I mean, we have to look around in a bigger picture now. We don't have that small focus anymore.
Right. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Anything you'd like recorded?
No, just.
All right.
I think I'm good.
All right. Well, thank you.